The Hound of the Baskervilles, Chapter 6, Hiding on the Moor. In my first report to Holmes, I wrote about Mr. Stapleton and his sister, and about the convict who had escaped from the prison and had still not been caught a fortnight later. Mr. Stapleton showed us the place where the legend of Hugo and the Hound of the Baskervilles began, a sad and lonely spot. Sir Henry asked Mr. Stapleton if he believed in the legend. He did not answer directly, but it was clear he thought it could be true. I noticed that Miss Stapleton made a great impression on Sir Henry, and she visits Baskerville Hall often with her brother. I met one more of Sir Henry's neighbours, a man called Mr. Frankland, who lives in Lafter Hall. He's an interesting man, always involved when there are local arguments about the law. He is an amateur astronomer and has a powerful telescope. The Barrymores are still a mystery. I can see that Mrs. Barrymore cries sometimes, though I have no idea why. I am sure that it was her that I heard sobbing when I first arrived. One other strange thing happened to me, which I also included in my report. About 2 o'clock in the morning I was woken by someone walking quietly past my room. I went out carefully. It was Mr. Barrymore creeping along the corridor. He went to the window of an empty room which looked out onto the moor and stood there with his candle against the glass. Some secret business is going on in Baskerville Hall at night, I am sure. A great deal happened in the next 2 days, and I had a lot to say in my second report to Holmes. I spoke to Sir Henry about Barrymore, and we decided that we would follow him together to find out what he was doing by the window at night. Before this, however, Sir Henry planned to go for a walk on the moor. It was clear that he was planning to visit Miss Stapleton, and he did not want me to go with him. Remembering that my job was to stay with Sir Henry all the times, I decided to follow him. I saw him meet Miss Stapleton and speak with her for a long time. Then Mr. Stapleton came running up. There was a short argument. I was too far away to hear what was said, and Mr. Stapleton left with his sister. Sir Henry was annoyed, and I had followed him, but he understood my reasons. He told me that Mr. Stapleton had been furious, quite crazy, to see Sir Henry with his sister, and had spoken very rudely to them. Mr. Stapleton apologized later for getting so angry, but it was quite a shock at the time. We had one success in our investigations. Sir Henry and I followed Barrymore the next night as he went to the window with his candle once more. We learned that he was signalling someone out on the moor. It turned out that the criminal on the moor was Mrs. Barrymore's brother, and she had been taking him food. We had to act. The criminal was a danger to everyone. We found where he was waiting, but he ran from us and we could not catch him in the dark. And then we saw a most surprising thing. On the top of a great rock we saw a man, tall and thin. He disappeared after just a moment, but I saw him clearly enough to know that it was not a convict. Perhaps it was a soldier, or a guard from the prison, or perhaps it was the same person who spied on us in London. We have many more questions than answers. The next day, October 16th, Barrymore came to speak to us. He asked us to let the convict, his wife's brother, leave the country to go to South America. Sir Henry agreed. Barrymore was very grateful, and in return told us that he knew who Sir Charles was meeting on the night he died, a woman who signed her letter to Sir Charles, LL. Mrs. Barrymore had seen part of the letter in the fire when she was cleaning and remembered the initials. Dr. Mortimer had an idea who the woman might be. Laura Lyons, who was Mr. Franklin's daughter. She had married an artist called Lyons years ago, he said, but he had left her. I took a trip to Coombe Tracey, the village where Laura Lyons lived. She was a beautiful woman, though there was sadness in her face. After some time, I found out that she had written the letter asking to meet Sir Charles. She had wanted his financial help to end her unhappy marriage. In the end, however, she said that someone else helped her, and she did not go to the meeting. On my way home, I met Mr. Frankland, and he told me something very interesting. With his telescope, he said, he had seen a young boy taking food out to the moor. Frankland was sure that the food was for the criminal Selden, but I had another idea. I remembered the tall, thin man I had seen standing on the top of the rock. Perhaps now I could find out who the stranger was. I followed the path the boy had taken. It led towards the prehistoric stone huts Stapleton had told me about. The man was not there, but I saw where he was living. Inside one of the huts there were blankets, some water, and a place for a fire. There was even a stone like a table there, and on it was a piece of paper with the words, "Dr. Watson has gone to Coombe Tracey." Someone was watching me closely. I decided to wait. Whoever this man was, I would catch him when he returned. At last I heard footsteps. The man was close. I took my revolver in my hand and waited. And then I heard a familiar voice. "Oh, it is a lovely evening, my dear Watson. Come out. It is more comfortable than sitting in there." The end of